Okay. So we are, we've been through a lot so far, and we're getting to the real. We've already started just as last week, get into the meat of product management by discussing. Last week we did went through market analysis. Um, we still have a little bit more to add. I'm just going to touch up on it because the next section will be customer development. So just to um, give you some sort of a guidepost as to what we've been doing so far. We have, been slowly laying the foundation for what product management is all about by starting as far back as working through the, understanding what product management is, understanding the product management ecosystem. That is, we examined the product development cycle through the lens of the stakeholders that typically product managers will have to work with. And we also looked at how to look at the data that you can use to basically manage stakeholder expectation and make sure that they are aligned with basically you understand what the business goals are, understand the expectation of the stakeholders, understand their perspective, and be able to communicate effectively, not just through conjecture and not just through hunches, but what we call data-driven decision making. So any decision that you come up with or make has to be supported with data to validate your assumption to your stakeholders. And then we went on to discuss aligning with business needs. So once we know the landscape, the role of a product manager and the relationship between the PMs, and we talked about the different types, which we have internal, we have B2B, we have B2C. And internal product managers work on products that are only within a company intranet or only employees within that company use. And those are usually easier and more forgiving because it's not a client-facing product and it's internally used. So sometimes it could be a bit unpolished and it's more forgiving. Then we have the B2B where you, as a product manager, you are the product manager for a product that is geared towards other corporations. So businesses, business to business products, where the ticket is, there's a lot of decision making to be made. The customers are usually known, and the market is pretty stable. It's either another business wants to do business with you, or they don't. It's either 1 or 0, right? And so, but there's a sales cycle, and it's a bit slower. There's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of bureaucracy that goes with that terrain. But eventually, you learn to navigate. Learn to navigate the entire ecosystem, and slowly make your way to bring in your stakeholders into the whole. Welcome, Justin. Okay, so I'm just gonna speak through real quick, and then we align with customers, understanding prioritization and the different styles of agile and agile versus waterfall and all that. And then last week we went into understanding your market. So when we say understanding your market, that is being able to, for lack of a better word, being able to, because you go into business, right? And in business, you need to know what game you're playing, who you're playing the game with, what is their strategy, what it is that they are, what's the strategy. So we looked at how you can ethically. It's more or less like you're becoming like a spy master or espionage, but obviously you want to do it ethically. Understanding your competition, how they source their products, understanding what they do differently from you as a company, and using that to inform how you either enter into a product space or not. So I just wanted to bring you quickly up to speed on what we have been covering so far. So right now, I'm just going to touch up on the remaining piece of understanding the market before we go into customer research, which we have to do a two-part series because it's more in-depth, and I'm more concerned more about you grasping the content than just to say, oh, we finished week 3 or we finished week 4, so let's just move on, right? So initially I told Shantae and Faloni that I was going to try and get both done, but then I realized that I'll be doing a disservice to you by trying to lump them all together. So for now, we're just going to keep them separate. So do you have any questions concerning what we did last week? And we have the videos too. I don't know if you've had a chance to see them.
You talking to me?
Anybody?
Oh, because I was like, wait, well, you probably didn't see it in the Slack, but I definitely caught up on the 2-hour video over the weekend. And I do remember you saying you didn't want to jumble everything together.
Yes.
Like you said in the previous class that we were going to do to catch up, just for the sake of catching up,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I figured, and as much as it's in a good spirit, the thing to do, I just felt that it wouldn't be good in the long term. So, I just stuck to just doing it, just going as planned, and just make things care more about you understanding what we're doing than just saying we're done. Okay, so that's good. I'm glad that you're caught up, and I just did a quick review so that Simone can also get a sense of where we are and where we're going. So, Simone, do you have any questions so far?
No, thanks for that. Nope, I was just kind of documenting all good points. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So so is today going to be part 2 of the continued conversation on market analysis? Because I know you said it was really broad and you would have to split it up and continue.
Exactly. Yes. So today I'm going to continue with the market analysis, and then I'm going to introduce the customer development. And then our next class we'll finish up the customer development. Then we can the rest is more, you can add them together because we introduced some of the concepts already, like the user stories, the agile stuff, the Scrum ceremony. We already touched on those. So when I go into that, I can bundle some of the topics together and move a bit faster.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, just that the market analysis and the customer development, they are very critical because as a product manager, it's a skill that you need to have, being able to understand the market and the market forces, and being able to come up with information, right, to help your team understand where you're going. So these are things that are very necessary and very important. That's why I didn't want to break them up. Okay.
I got a question.
So, yes.
So speaking of that, I know some companies work that differently. Sometimes they have an analysis team and they provide you with the data, but you still need to understand it and be able to communicate it right to your stakeholders.
Exactly.
No matter whether you got it or somebody else gave it to you.
Yes. And, it depends on the company, right? Some companies, like well-established companies, they will have, like AT&T. I was somebody dropped. Anyway, I'm not gonna worry about that. Okay, so for example, AT&T, they had a team dedicated for what? For analytics, right? They had a team for tagging, so they tagged the entire user journey map. They had a team for even the UX and UI. They had 2 separate teams. They had a strategy team and they had a tactical team, right? So you have strategy and tactical. So it was a bit easier, but then you can be called on to do a product roadmap or be called on to now do an analysis because so I was the senior product manager or owner, because some companies use it interchangeably. But my one of the guys was out for weeks to a month for a wedding in India. So the owners fell on me to do the work. You can't tell them, I'm sorry, I can't do it because he's gone, right? So it is imperative that you also know, you can speak, talk the talk and be able to hold your own and not be overly dependent on others. That's why I definitely want us to touch up on these things before we, so that you can always have that at the forefront. Um, any more questions before I dive in? Okay, so I'll take it that no more questions. Let me see. So a few things more that I want to touch upon. I think last week I also talked about the different ways of figuring out the size of a market, but I'm going to recap some of them again, and then I will segue more into today's topic. So the typical approach that people use is the top down. The two common approaches to think about market sizes as a top down, which is based on, so top down is like you find the total market and then you estimate what your share of that market is. That is a pretty simple and straightforward, but usually it's the more optimistic and overly simplified method, which does not yield the right capture of your market. The bottom up approach is usually more conservative and tends to be more realistic. And so that is more based on thinking about the current sales volume of similar products within your company's offering, and then estimating how much of those sales that your company, based on its position, can capture, right? And it's usually the best way to estimate the size of a market, and it takes more time and effort, but eventually it yields the more potent results. And then we also talked about certain tools that we can use. Good old Google is a good tool to use. So you can look for industry reports about your industry and just type industry reports for X, industry reports for healthcare, industry reports for social media, industry reports for, and it will give you the peer-reviewed and research papers that you can start as a baseline to start building a hypothesis to now inquire and dig a little bit deeper. You can use Twitter also to search on the what's trending. What type in that product that you're looking at and see how people are responding to it, respond to your competitors. Reddit is also another one. You can kind of gauge the pulse of the ecosystem that you're trying to enter. And Google AdWords, the keyword planner, shows you volumes of searches related to the product that you are the product manager of. So that kind of gives you a sense of where the market is going. So those are some areas that you can think of. And then, it's very important to know how to collect this information on your competition, and not just collecting them, but also be able to synthesize that data and make a judgment on what that means for your company or for your product. So, if you go into a company with a lot of competitors, you need to analyze them before you tackle the opportunity. One is, why are there so many incumbents? Or why is there only one? Or why is there nobody in this field, right? Is it because there's some hidden a pitfall that I don't know that I'm blind to, or do I just happen to be so innovative and visionary that I'm stumbling upon, like the gold rush in San Francisco when people run out there to prospect, so you have to do that analysis to be able to tell your team, hey, this is a product worth building, and then you can corral the team around you to build it, right? Exactly. So those are some of the stuff that you need to do, because as a product manager, you are in charge of more or less the triaging the product, like a medic or doctor. You triage and the feature. So basically, you have to choose what you're going to build and decide what you're building for. Are we building to get more users? Are we looking to make our users happy? Or are we looking to enhance our brand, right? And so that's why this data is very, very critical. It's very powerful. And you make decisions not out of, I feel like it has to be based on solid analysis, and you conducting some serious research to support whatever you say. Okay. And I shared. I'm still wrapping up on what we did last week, and then I'm going to dig into today's lecture. And last thing too, I showed some tools to Shantae, which includes like Moat, looking at your competitors' advertising platform. Where are they spending money? How are they displaying their ads? What is their ad copy? How does it read? How is the conversion of that? And how does that apply to what you are trying to do? So once you have all this information at your fingertips, then you are in pole position to now make an educated decision, right? And not just a guess. You're actually making a decision that is based on data. That, okay, based on what I have seen, I think this is the right product to be building, or the right feature to be building, and so forth and so forth. All right, let me segue into can you see my screen, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So when you're doing a market research, obviously, or market analysis, you have to set a goal for yourself, right? What is the goal of my market analysis? What are my objectives? You don't just go on a wild goose chase. So what is one well, I guess Simone is in healthcare, but we can pick a product for example, any company that we want to use, and we can just discuss that along with and use that some examples from that company. So if you think of anyone, you can just let me know, and we can use that, right? You know, of course, you set a goal of the market analysis, and then you want to be able to look at the different dimensions of the market. That is, you know, you can do market research based on customer observation, your own personal experiences. So assuming, okay, I don't know if I can use iPhone and Android, because that's, because I just recently upgraded my phone, and I got an iPhone because of personal experiences. I've been an iPhone user for the past, God knows how long, over a decade and change. And yeah, since 2008, I've been, or yeah, 2008 or 9, I've been using the iPhone for some time now, right? So it's a product that I use, so I can speak to it. So it's from a personal experiences or observation. It could also be from customer things that you see from customers. You can look at trends, right? And you could, so basically looking at dimensions of a market, and you're looking at how you can relate to it, or how existing users are relating to that product, right? Being able to list having a list of data points on that market, and then being able to classify them into the different dimensions, and then fitting them into your overall objective for conducting the whole market analysis, right? So usually when you do market analysis, you want to determine whether the how, I use the word attractive here loosely, and in the sense of how is the market responding, right? And understanding how opportunities are evolving in that particular space. So attractive here means how customers are responding. Is it a sticky product that people are flocking to? And also, are there any opportunities around it that you can capitalize on? So it's like you do like a SWOT analysis on the existing, so that is the incumbents. You look at what are some of the strengths of the particular product out there that you're looking to either emulate or to overtake, right? So the strengths of that product, you look at some of the weaknesses based on for example, when you go on Yelp or you go on other places or even Google, businesses have like reviews. Some of them are negative. Nobody would like to go eat at a restaurant that has a 1-star review with over 20,000 people, and the average is 1 star, right? We'll all want to go to a place, even if it's like 4.5, and it has 2,000 or 200 users, and the place has 10,000 users and has 3 stars. We look at not the volume, but we just look at the number 4.5 versus 3. Oh, that 4.5 must be really good, so we want to go there. Same thing. You look at when you're sizing up your market, and you're going on Twitter, you're going on Reddit, because there's subreddits on products, and you are gauging the attractiveness of that product. Are people bashing it? Are they happy with it? What are the things? What are some of the weaknesses you're picking up on? So you're just not looking at those weaknesses to poke fun, but to more help you to make an informed decision as to where you should be expanding your resources in tapping and capturing that market. So the strengths and weaknesses of your competitors, and using that as a guidepost to direct your research. So the dimension of the market, you look at the current market size, right? Like presently, and then you project into the future, right? So this is where you kind of have to put on some a little bit of a marketing hat, some basic arithmetic, and some common sense economics, right? Where you're looking at the current market. So for example, market share between Apple and Android, which of the two do you think has the most market share? Apple or Android?
Apple.
Okay, Shante, what do you think?
Apple.
Simone?
Repeat the question.
So between Android and iPhone, who has the largest market share?
Who has the largest?
Or the biggest?
The biggest? I'm
Yeah.
gonna say iPhone.
Okay, Falon, how about yourself?
Apple.
Okay. Well, would you be surprised to know that it's actually Android that has the largest market share?
Wow.
Yeah.
Because Android existed before Apple, is that why?
No, it's because Apple is as a walled or proprietary
Product.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's proprietary, and so it's like only Apple can release it, right? But Android, you have Samsung, you have HTC, you have Xiaomi, and the list goes on. Plus one, you have the Google Pixel, and so basically, Apple, Google basically. Okay. Felani says, I knew it was Samsung because Android is used cross-platform. Yeah. So it's used cross-platform. And obviously, you can tell that Apple products are very expensive. So globally, when you go out of the US, especially into Africa and the Arab world, or to India, not many people can afford an iPhone. iPhones cost an arm and a leg. I mean, thanks to financing, most people here can afford it. But if it comes to paying for rent and putting food on the table, you will pick those over shelling out. How much was that? iPhone 13 Pro Max was like 10,000 and change, right? That's a lot of money to shell, versus Androids, which are typically much cheaper. So in India, Android is king, right? It's affordable. Because it's open source, you have, like we said, Samsung is licensing from Google. You have HTC, Huawei, Xiaomi. All these companies have licensed this product, and they just have to just do the hardware and then sell it to their market. And as a result, Google doesn't have to spend too much money on marketing. It's like, hey, we have this thing, it's open source. You want it? Yeah, sure. okay, pay us this millions, and then you can go ahead and do the marketing for your demographic, and Google just benefits. It's like what we call a virtuous cycle, the opposite of a vicious cycle. By open sourcing it, Samsung does all their hardware and make sure it works with the Android, and they will sell it to Korea, to America, to other parts of the world. HTC is doing the same. Huawei is doing the same. All the other distributions of Android are doing it, and they are now, so Androids have Google search as the default search engine, right? So that's all the eyeballs they're bringing back to Google, right? If you have it, it's packaged with all the Google suites. So you have to use Gmail, you have to, use YouTube, and everything is just like connected and ready to go. But market size is a what we call a vanity metric. Is a good metric, but it's vanity. Even though Apple has the lower market share compared to Android, Apple makes the most money compared to Android. So the size doesn't matter, but in this case, the little size is dominating, is more valuable because of the quality of the product that Apple puts out. So even though their market share is about less than 20%, about 20 to 30%, and Android dominates the rest. Of course, there are other fringe phones here and there. But if you look at the two dominant players in the field, Android takes the pie. But with the little share that iPhone has, it's more valuable than all Android phone sales and Android products combined. Is that something? So if Apple gained a little bit more market share than Android, it would be making insane amount of money, or it's already beating up Google at the game, right? So you look at not just the market size, because that's not enough. So I only give this analogy to show you that market size is not always king. Android has the largest market size, yet Apple with its little market size squeezes a lot more juice out of that market and makes billions upon billions. And the value, like I think the market cap is about something $1 trillion or so. So market size alone is not important. You need other indicators, other metrics to support your, that's where market growth rate, the adoption rate for iPhones, right? iPhone is now considered a luxury. So you'll find out that in most emerging markets, the well-to-dos or the new rich will see iPhone as a status symbol, so they will usually go for it. And once they get that, they will want to get all the other Apple products to pair with it. So if they get an Android, iPhone, they want to get an iPhone, Apple Watch, or they might get an iPad, or they might own a MacBook. It's rare to find an Apple consumer who owns just one Apple product. Typically, if they don't like the iPhone, they'll have the Android, but they'll have an Android, but they'll have a MacBook or an iPad. Or the reason why they might not want the iPhone is because they already have an iPad, so they don't want the iPhone. But typically they own at a minimum 2 Apple products at any given time, right? So that's how they're making their money, because all their products are very seamless. Go ahead, Simone.
Yeah, I got caught up in that I had an Apple computer, and then I wanted to go to an Android phone. But the problem with the Apple computer, when I do my work setup at home, and I had, just a regular monitor, none of the cords would fit into the Apple computer. None of them. So that's and it's just like Apple forces you to buy only their products.
Exactly.
They try to make everything from their chargers to the headset only Apple fitting. And so, they've customized it, like you said, smarter from the standpoint of they're trying to sell it as a luxury brand. Not they are.
Exactly.
Although I don't think they are totally, because I do think some of the phones are trash and overrated. But again, I had already purchased an Apple, but I had to end up buying a laptop if I want to, for personal use to fit into the stuff I had already bought for my office, just a basic monitor, because I was not going to invest anymore in the Apple. as far as that. So now I just have two. But yeah, and the whole thing about the phones being 1,000 and 2,000, they just started that in the last like couple years. It used to be not that high, but you know, they tried it and it's working in terms of
Well,
you can make payment arrangements and all of that on a phone.
mhm.
They still doing the same thing that the business model that the cable companies are now using, or vice versa. Maybe they stole it from them with the whole contract thing.
That's exactly, you just like literally confirmed everything I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
It's not by, you think it's by
It's not
accident?
about volume. They're painting, it's what they're doing in terms of the brand, and that you have this, it's a luxury product. You're gonna have the best of the best texting, the
Exactly.
best picture clarity, top of the line, and you want the top of the line, right? You know, so
Yep.
that's, but we won't go with anything else. We will block out all usage of chargers, anything. You won't be able to stick it in a computer unless it's Apple.
Have you heard about this, the statement, there is a sucker born every minute by P.T.
Mhm.
Barnum?
Mm-hmm.
There you go. So this is where marketing comes in. Like they really pay a lot of money to do the research behind this. And they, before, when they started, Apple products could fit other products. And now, as you rightly said, they changed the power, the ports. And now they've made a way. Nobody even uses how many people still listen to iPhone with wired headsets?
Me.
So you probably,
But I know I'm not the norm. Yeah, I used to not even
exactly.
use them. They would just sit in the box, but that's just me. But it's convenient for sure. The other ones come out of my ear, and I'm just
Yeah,
not ready to spend that. But you know, I have a
yeah.
teenager, he has them, everybody around him has them,
hmm
the wireless ones. And now
Yeah,
they got different levels of those.
yeah, exactly.
You have
So,
different levels.
and all these don't, like, these are all
All of this
flagged.
is coming from the market research that they're doing and paying attention to the customer
Exactly.
and the customer journey and identifying that that's what they want, or whether they're targeting a college market, a teen market, or people from 20s to 30s will use them and buy them. And that's what's happening.
That's exactly what they're doing. And one thing you realize, I mean, I live on the East Coast. Just take a trip on the train, go to New York, on the train, and just walk through and see how many, just by doing just guerrilla marketing research. You can look at every phone on the train, and I bet you will count more iPhones than Androids on the train. And we talk about earpods or AirPods. Almost everyone with an iPhone has an AirPod. It's a cool status symbol. I saw the evolution of cell phones when they were first of all, they were feature phones, those bricks, the Nokias, and then it went to the flip phones, and then it had those that were like, you could use, and then dumb phones, and now we have smartphones. Now people read on their phones. This is all like market. They go, Steve Jobs, there's a story of him having his marketing team actually go into the metro, like on the BART in San Francisco, the Bay Area Rapid Transit. They were in New York. They were every major metro area to study people's commute and all that stuff. Right? They looked at how the users were actually in the wild using the product, and they modeled and slowly changed people's perception to now it's become the norm. That Samsung literally copied the iPhone, and they had to go to court and then sue each other and finally license it to each other, stuff like that. So Apple does the same thing too. Before, NFC was not on iPhones, but now we have it. Things that came on Androids years ago, Apple slowly introduces into their next release and charges more. And people think like, oh, that's cool, and they pay for it because it's Apple, it's the moat, the brand and the position that they have, right? So that was a good one, Simone. Thank you. And one other thing too, you realize that computers these days, desktops no longer have optical drives. We don't use like CDs that much anymore. So everything is moved to download. Apple spearheaded that from the floppy disk. They championed the CDs and then phased it out, and eventually they like the more you buy the MacBook, the less ports you get. Before it has so many ports, it has the Ethernet wire, it has the Thunderbolt, it had all these ports that you could hook up, and it was cool. And then subsequently, it's just been slowly just getting rid of all the ports to the point where now there's only one port, and you have to use it for everything. But people don't complain; they just use it, right? So that's a very good one. So, so market size alone is not enough. You have to look at the growth rate of the product. You also look at the profitability, the profit margins, right? So when we look at Android and iPhone as an example, even though we said Android has over 60 to 70% market share, Apple dominates even in the profitability because one unit that they sell is a whole lot of money, right? In that little niche that they have carved out for themselves in that market is still more profitable. So Androids have to sell a whole lot more and to catch up or to be even anywhere close to Apple. But Apple just has created that cool effect, right? And then you also have to look at like the market trends. We talked about that. What are the key success factors? The distribution channel. So because not again, I want to not just use Apple and Android, but Apple has a very well-oiled machine, like the Apple App Store, right? The distribution of apps. Like when I build applications, we have the most problems submitting apps to Apple than Android. Android, Google Play, you only pay $25 for the lifetime. Apple, you pay $100 every year. And there are so many apps out there, so many developers. So you think about it, that's a cash cow already. And they are very particular about privacy. They're very particular about privacy policy. They really test things out very thoroughly. And as a result, they have a very trusted and robust, ecosystem. So the distribution channel is well-oiled. They have that for all their products, and the quality of the products that people put on iPhone or the iOS tend to be much superior than the Android. When I go on the Apple Play Store, I can find apps that feel like somebody's child's play, somebody's like a sixth grader just got bored and created an app, and Apple, Google just accepts it. It's on the Play Store, but not Apple. So that's an example. Having the distribution, your competitor may have an advantage where they they have distributions. If it's a physical product, they have warehouses across, like Amazon. Amazon does both digital and also physical, and they have used the same concept for the digital and physical, where they have servers, server farms in some of the remote areas in America. In Iowa, Altoona, Iowa is one place. It's nothing but cornfields, but you have like 20 soccer field size buildings that house nothing but arrays upon arrays of computers, right? You have them in Virginia, you have some in Kentucky, you have all over sprawl over the United States. So they can move data efficiently. That's the distribution channel that they have. They're able to move data quickly and effectively. And they've replicated the same thing when it comes to logistics for Amazon products. They have warehouses at least just on the East Coast alone. I live in on the East Coast, and there is a warehouse at least, if I can count, maybe 4 or 5 of them alone in New Jersey. There's one in Newark. There's a few upstate New Jersey, central New Jersey, and they have some in New York. They have some in Philadelphia. So they have all these, in Tennessee, you name it. So, and they're all well connected. So that's how they can do the Prime, and you order something and you get it like so quickly, right? Because they have the distribution channel to move the products. So the digital aspect, they have the service to move data, and you get them so quickly. And then when it comes to the physical products, they rival UPS and the United States Postal Services or any other postal service you can think of. They move a lot of these things. So to sum it up, when you're doing a market analysis, market size alone is not the only factor you should be looking at. it often can be misleading because somebody may have a big market share. That doesn't mean they are really making that doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, 100 big market share, so they're making more money. No, somebody can have only 2% or 5%, but in that 5%, they are milking every single bit of it, and they have a higher ticket item, and they have a more resilient process and diligent process, so they tend to make more. So there's a phrase: riches are made in niches, right? Not everybody's your customer, so that's one thing you have to understand. That size, just because something is big doesn't mean it's the best. Sometimes being more efficient and more nimble and more agile and having 5, 10, 15, 20, 30% of the market and dominating and have a vertical system, right? Where you are tapping into every nook and cranny of your product. That is where you make your riches. Unlike other companies that are just like distributed all over the place. Okay. I guess I'm a bit ahead of myself, but size of the market can be evaluated based on the present sales and also potential sales, which you can project some sorts of information to determine market sizes. You can look at government data, right? You can look at government data. You can look at trade associations, also financial reports. So you can look at financial data from major players. All these companies, they put out reports. When you look at Apple has it, they do what they call the CEOs will give a report on how the industry is doing and where they stand compared to the competition. So they have a keynote and they have all these data readily available. So you as a product manager, you need to know where to go to find what you need, right? And then Gartner is another company that does that. There's so many of them. You just have to know your industry and what is the industry norm or the one that everybody wants, right? So market growth, being able to forecast, that is to extrapolate or estimate based on historical data. So if we project back, we see that 5 years ago, I always say, man, I should have bought some Tesla stock 6 years ago, right? It was very cheap. It was like $20, $30. Nobody thought much of it. By 2017, it was around $60, $80. Fast forward to 2019, 2020, it's now like $800, and it's just, so you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know. Just based on looking at historical data and looking at the trends, it is safe to say, okay, if you've been able to go from growing the company from this, you went from selling 100 units 5 years ago, so then the next year you're now selling 1,000 units, and then by the third year you're selling 10,000. By the fourth year you're at 100,000. It's just common sense that as time goes on, you'll be selling million units anytime soon, right? So looking at the demographic information, look at sales growth, and look at other complementary products within the space, right? If you go to a movie theater, they sell you popcorn and then soda, because once they give you the popcorn, you're gonna be thirsty and you want something to drink. So they pair it with the soda, Coke, Sprite, you name it. So looking at market growth, so if you're somebody who sells popcorns, you have to see how many Cokes are being sold, or Pepsis or Sprites are being sold, and those are complementary products that you can also study its growth and see, okay, since people are buying more of this, then they might buy more of that, right? And you can use historical data to make that inference. So very critical as a product manager, understanding the maturity, and decline stages of the product life cycle that you're looking at. So all products don't exist forever. Some products will have, they start just like anything else, no market share. Eventually, it starts getting some market share and reach the stage of maturity, and eventually it saturates the market, or they cannibalize themselves by releasing newer products that makes the others obsolete. Case in point, nobody uses Microsoft 95 anymore, or 98, or Millennium. I remember back then, to get the Microsoft 98 was so cool. Even when Millennium came out, I didn't want to upgrade. But after a while, they went to Windows NT. Then there was Windows Millennium. Then there was XP. So after a while, it's no longer backwards compatible. So you have to give up 98. And same thing after XP was like the toast of the town. Corporations built businesses around them, and Microsoft went on to Windows. Now I think it's Windows 10 or 11 or whatever it is now. They don't support XP any longer. So most people have to now move away from that old one to the new. And so there's a decline, and you have to sunset the product. So you have to do the research and see, okay, we started off with 1 million or 5 million users. And over the years, it's now tapered down to only 50,000 users. But we have to still to support this product in the man hours and the salaries and all that. It just doesn't add up to our business use case or overall sense. So then you have to sunset that product because it's in the declining stages, and find a way to either migrate the existing users to a newer platform, or they have to pay a premium now. So a case in point, so the companies that build infrastructures around Windows XP for so long, and then they no longer had a way to, it was very costly for them to shift to Windows 10 or any of those other later upgrades. Microsoft had to basically say, hey, we have no other choice, but I have to bill you to support that, so we can have a dedicated team, and it'll be on a use case basis, and you pay, and we'll just support it for you. That's the only way we can keep this the lights on. So things like the price pressure caused by competition. You could be selling yours for $100, and then all of a sudden somebody comes in and is offering same thing, like for like, but they're selling for $25. That's like a no-brainer. People will be like, why are you selling for $25 and someone's selling for $100? Then they do a comparison analysis and they realize, you know what, it's the same thing. I'm just paying more for the name. I'll just go for this one. So it puts pressure on you, and you have to either lower yours or be out of business, right? Sometimes the brand loyalty, the decrease in brand loyalty, there's so much bad publicity about your product. And when people mention the name, everybody just is like, oh, I don't want to deal with them. Eventually, it erodes the customer's trust and integrity, and people will switch quickly to a new alternative product out there. There are substitutes. We talked about that already. And then it gets to a point where the market becomes too saturated that yours does not really stand out. So you have to look at all these things. Okay, the incumbents, what is the current price? What price can we go in to undercut them and still be profitable and keep the lights on? Target, is it Target? Oh no, not Target. Costco's, they still sell their chicken at the loss, right? It's something called a loss leader. They still sell their chicken for $5, and since I've been in this country, they still sell it for that much. Time has gone, inflation rises, and it come what may, they still sell it for $5. The reason being, why would they sell it for so cheap when everybody's raising their prices? It's because they put the chicken all the way in the back of the store, and the argument is that people will come in for our cheap, ridiculously cheap chicken that is made so well, and they have to walk through our store, and they will see something, and they will, on their way out or on their way in, they might look at something and say, oh, you know what, let me get this one too, right? Or let me get that one too. And so with that $5 chicken, selling at a loss every time, it's actually converting to a high ticket item, high ticket um, purchase. So someone comes in, okay, Sunday, I'm just gonna go get their cheap chicken. I go there, walk all the way to the back, and as I'm enjoying the chicken, I'm like, wait a second, I probably could use some milk. I could use some this. I could use some that. Before I realize, I got a $5 chicken, but I spent another 30, another 40. If I can get 100,000 people to come in just for that, and they all spend a minimum $20 to $30 in addition, that's millions. So from that millions, my chicken can still be kept cheap. So that's what we call a loss leader. So looking at the price competition and being able to, okay, I got Simone says I have to pass through the alcohol section. And so, yeah, sometimes you either buy alcohol or you have to buy, the lottery, you have to buy a lottery ticket, so you have to spend. Or before you decide to buy some alcohol, you end up buying, it's somebody's baby shower. So I have to buy diapers, I have to buy this, I have to buy that. Before you realize the chicken is so good, it was so cheap, and you've ended up buying so many other things that you didn't even think. And sometimes, they also have things on sale. So the chicken alone brings in the crowd, and then they can upsell you before you realize they have items on sale, and this buy one get one free, buy three for that, buy this for that, and like, damn, I just came for chicken, and I'm leaving with a $60, $100 bill. So it's working, and of course there's some that are just coming just for the chicken, but one day, they may pick something else. So one way or the other, they still make their money. So either way, you still pay $5 towards the chicken, but you will pick something. Maybe not today, maybe not next week, maybe not next month, but eventually you would one day get the chicken and get a bigger ticket. And then we know those seasonal buyers, but they still come in and get our chicken, and we'll get them on the other side. And then the people that come in and then they just get sucked in, and they end up buying what we need. So that's what the loss leaders are looking at the market profitability. Of course, average profit per potential sale. You can use that as a guideline for knowing how difficult it is to make money in the market. So these are no one single indicator is like the king of it all. You need to have all these in place to be able to make a very well-informed decision on the trend of the product that you're working on, or doing your market analysis on, whether it's a product, physical product, a digital product, or any other product that you're working on. So there's something called Porter's 5 competitive forces. I don't know if you've heard about this. Porter is a Harvard Business School professor, and he came up with these forces that determine how a market operates, right? So when you have any product, there are always the threat of having a potential new entrant. How many of us remember MySpace?
I do, of course.
Yeah. Back in the day, MySpace was the thing. Friendster, there was Meeble, you name it. Where are they now? Friendster is now in the dumpster. MySpace is it's like, it's an internet folklore now, because something came out of called Facebook, and slow but sure, it just kind of knocked everybody out of the park. So nobody remains king forever, unless if you don't innovate, you die. So the potential new threats, new entrants that come in. Another example, prior to coming to America, the default search engine was Yahoo. I remember my friend used to tell me, "Oh, these two guys who started Yahoo, blah blah," and and I was like, he was the one that got me to even want to apply to come to college in the U.S. He's the one that told me to go to Cornell, all that stuff. And because I used to like his sister, so whatever he said, I listened, and I guess it was a good thing, right? I didn't end up getting married to her, but it still worked out good for me. So he would tell me about Yahoo and all these other stuff. So when I came here, I saw everyone using Yahoo to do research or search for stuff. But then there was this girl from Macedonia, and she was going on this site that had like all these colors, like yellow, green, red, and everything. And she typed of stuff, and it'll come up quickly, and it was all white and just one search box. I'm like, what is this? It didn't make any sense to me. That was Google, right? There was Alta Vista, there was DocPal, there was InfoSeek, AskJeeves, you name it. The Excite, my first email was an Excite email, which I can't even access any longer. And so there were so many of them. Then came Google, and they took over. So when we look at the market forces, there are new entrants that can come in, like with all the search wars, Google came in and dominated. And then not Yahoo. Yahoo is no longer nobody talks about Yahoo anymore. AOL was another one, right? They came around, then they're no longer here, right? And the same goes with other products. So in the market space, the competitive landscape, there could be what we call threat of substitutes, right? Anybody, so for example, and also, well, let me not get ahead of myself. People can, your product can come in and be the king. MySpace was dominating. It was like very loud. The people that made money out of customizing MySpace pages, it had all these trails and you name it. I personally didn't like MySpace because it was too loud and it was all over the place. And I just predicted it was going to crash, and it did. I just didn't like how it was organized. Facebook, I was just kind of forced to join because I was, in school, starting college, and it was new and it was the college thing. And my friend's like, hey, there's something called Facebook. And then I was like, sure, I'll sign up. But he's like, no, come. He opened the browser. They told me to put my school ID in. And I felt special because, I used my username at my universities.edu. I felt so special, man. Okay, nobody else can get in. I can have my university ID and log in. And I created it. And I found utility quickly because I needed a ride to campus and I didn't have a way to transport all my stuff. And somebody friended me and asked me, hey, when are you coming to campus? I'm like, well, I have to, blah, blah. He said, no, we can pick you up. So right there with Facebook, I got some utility and I became sold. I was like, I love this platform, right? So I found utility in it. But over time, substitutes came around. Instagram showed up. Friendster was dying. Bebo was acquired by, I think AOL, a few other ones. MySpace just died, and the High Five and all the others just fizzled. It was Zango, Black Planet, you name it. Those all died off, right? Eventually. Now, Facebook was dominating and slowly opening up their market to not just students, but to also high schools and then eventually to everybody. But then along came, so Facebook came around in 2004, and then Instagram came around, right? Instagram started, I think, it was 2010, actually, yeah, 2010 it came around. So 6 years after Facebook, 2010, Instagram comes around, and Facebook just saw, this is like the product managers at Facebook were doing their market analysis, and like, you know what, this new entrant is a substitute to our product, right? That's the product substitution. The barrier of entry was so low. Guy at Stanford was on vacation, wants to take pictures, but there was no way to make them look good. The whole goal was not to create a social media thing, but it was to take a picture and be able to like use nice filters to make them look nice for his girlfriend. He called it Bourbon. Eventually, he changed the name to Instagram, like, the Insta, whatever they call it, those pictures that you take and then the name caught on. It was very simple, stripped down version of Facebook, and you could do better pictures. And so this is where it is very critical. If Facebook hadn't made the move to acquire Instagram for $1 billion when it had no revenue, right? But they were looking at things like we're talking about now. The product managers at Facebook were doing their research. They did a market analysis. They saw there was a new entrant, unlike the MySpace and others. It was gaining traction, and it was attracting more of the Gen Z type people who were didn't care about newsfeed, they didn't care about all those pokes and stuff. They wanted to just take cool pictures, and they also saw that they observed how people were using Instagram. I remember that I would actually take a picture, upload it to Instagram, use a cool filter to make it look nice, then come back and then upload it to Facebook. So they saw that trend. People were doing that a lot. And they're like, you know what? And do it. There's something called engagement or daily active usage, monthly active usage. Facebook saw that 2004 it spiked. They couldn't contain it at Harvard. They expanded it to other campuses. And then, the summer costs were increasing to raise money. So by 2006, they were like, everybody was talking about Facebook, 2007, Facebook, 2008. And then all of a sudden, 2010, they realized that their traffic was, at one point, Facebook was the next, after Google, Facebook was next. Or Facebook, it was Google, YouTube, and then Facebook, or something like that. And then all of a sudden, their engagement started dipping, right? It dips maybe by a few, because there were like 1 billion of users, and all of a sudden, it's dipped by 10 or 20 or 100 million. That's insignificant when you're having 1 billion, but it's significant to a company like Facebook, because that's like going against back in the trend. So like, hey, what's going on here? So they did a market analysis, snooping around, observing people in the wild, and they will survey some of the heavy users that they now see that there's a drop in their engagement. Before, Nathan was spending like 5 hours on Facebook, but now all of a sudden he's spending only 3 hours, or even just 4 hours, and then eventually he's down to 3. And they want to survey and say, what's going on? Let's observe. Okay, Nathan is taking pictures from Instagram and bringing it back to us. And he's not the only one. There's so many people doing this thing. So that's a trend. So they looked at it and like, you know what? Instagram with pictures, nice, cool pictures. It has a social media. You can like, you can comment. They have everything we have. Let's get them. 1 billion. They had only 13 employees. They raised 60 million, no revenue, but it was a strategic move. And now Instagram is worth so much more. Another thing, YouTube was, I'll talk about the YouTube story, but I want to go to other stuff. So we're looking at the new entrants, threat of substitute products, and also the bargaining power of buyers. In this case, when pricing becomes an issue, you need to be able to adjust, right? And also power of suppliers, be able to know which supplier will be the best for you and your product. Now, who can tell me what YouTube started off as? What was YouTube supposed to be initially? Do you have any idea? Okay, I'll take it as a no. So YouTube did not start off as a video sharing site. You know that. It actually started off as a dating app so that people can be able to, talk to people and on a dating site. But eventually they realized that when they tested it out, people liked the video uploading feature of it more than the dating aspect. So they pivoted and they went into the video sharing. Prior to YouTube was a Google video. So when you go to Google search, there was the images and there was also videos that Google, and quite frankly, when you search for videos on Google, you got some stuff, but the YouTube videos were just more engaging and more fun. And they just saw that people were moving in that direction. So just like Instagram, when YouTube started, I think it came out in 2014. In about a year and 3 months, Google acquired them for 1.65 billion. And today, it is like one of the cash cows for Google in terms of revenue, in terms of just getting people to still search. And so the top search destinations on the web is Google, of course, and right after it is YouTube, before maybe Facebook and others will come in that order, right? So these are some of the moves that companies would do to preserve their position. If you don't, you become like a Kodak, where they were making films, but they could have easily seen the trend, and they could have created a mobile phone division and created like uploading pictures and videos, or maybe they could have acquired Instagram even, but they didn't. And now Kodak is no more, right? So as a company, that's where product managers are paid big bucks to do this research with the marketing team and being able to identify trends and quickly make decisions to help. So that is some of the things to look at. Any questions so far? Okay, I'll continue. So the Porter's value chain, which I presented earlier, is used to basically determine whether there's value being added for a product, and looking at the cost, isolating the cost, and looking at the structure of the whole industry, and making a informed decision as to where your product, your nascent product will fit in, or where incumbents are, and you can make that extrapolation and make a decision based on that. You can use that to determine the cost structure of a product, determine who your real competitors are, what's the market share, and all that. So all these come together to really make an informed decision. Yeah. So, looking at all the tools that come into play, look at the operations, inbound logistics, outbound marketing and sales services, and you break them into primary activities. These are activities that are needed to keep a business running, and these are the support stuff, like technology department. You have an HR department, infrastructure, the technology infrastructure they have to make the company work, and then everything else will spearhead all this is the profit the company is generating, because you can have all these divisions, but the company should add value. Otherwise, you will not be in business any longer. So inbound logistics, there's if you're doing a company like Amazon, or even UPS, or any of these companies, or Walmart. So not just Amazon. Amazon has a physical and digital. Walmart has physical and digital. Target has the same, and the list goes on and on. So they all have their robust logistics, receiving and warehousing of raw materials, and being able to distribute them as required, right? The operations, the process of transforming the inputs into finished products and services. Same thing applies to Apple. They have the raw materials. They move operations to places like India, China. iPhones are mostly made out there. These days, it's gotten a bit costly, so they move it to Vietnam. If you look at your packages, you see that, because they're always looking at where the puck is going, not where, not where the puck is, where it's going to be. So they realize China used to be very dirt cheap, but with rising middle class and differentiation in the economy, it's gotten more expensive to do business out of China. So they move to another country, Vietnam, right? So all these are things that companies have to look at to survive. Outbound logistics, being able to warehouse and distribute your products when they're finished. So Apple has Apple stores all over the place that you can use to get what you need. And then they have third-party ones like your T-Mobiles, your Verizons, the AT&Ts, to distribute this product. And they have a very strong marketing and sales team to be able to push their products out there. And of course, excellent customer service. I use T-Mobile, and so far, I love the customer service. I think that the longest I've stayed with one carrier for so long. Yeah. The organizational structure. So these are some of the things that you look at, because sometimes you look at a company and a competitor, and they're doing very well, and you just assume that everything is going well because of magic. But when you peel back the curtains, you have a well-oiled team. You have a very solid human resources management that is employing and recruiting, hiring and training and developing, and also compensating them very well to retain them, right? So people feel no need to leave. So these are the things that your company might be lacking. Also, they have a very strong technology development program where they support, like Google has something called the 80-20. So as an employee, 80% of my time is dedicated to working at Google, but then they also have 20% that it's a downtime. I can create something of interest and share that to I can create something of interest. And out of that came products like Orkut, which is the precursor to Facebook and Friendster and all those other social media sites, but it gained more interest and traction in Brazil, and I think some people still use it. I think so. But Gmail came out of one of the 80/20. One of the that was like, you know what? Before it was either you use Hotmail or you use Yahoo or you use some other one, and they're like, we can make it better. So in the 20% time downtime, they created Gmail, and it just evolved and eventually became it's like the dominant. So there's been a lot of wins there, coming up with something. There were incumbents, there were HTML, there was Yahoo, there was any type of email, AOL, mail, and they're all like down in the dumpsters now. And everybody and their grandma has a Gmail account. So you have a robust team that is behind and making sure that driving the innovation that is needed for the company. So most of these things in the slides I have touched up on, like the distribution channel, having a very either make sure that there is a distribution channel that exists to move the products. So if it's a digital product, you want to make sure that you have servers and you have all the infrastructure to handle the load. Because if you have a wonderful site, you've done everything you need, now it's time to go to market, and your servers are overwhelmed and they crash. People go on there and it gives them a white screen. With any given time, people are going to leave and say, look, we can't do business with you, and they just go. So part of your strategy as a product manager is making sure that, okay, we're launching this product, we're estimating this number of users. I'm gonna basically estimating 30 million people to come on the site, but I'm gonna budget for 60 or 90, 100 million people, just in case. We want to make sure that I have servers ready on the West Coast to handle the California traffic. So all the West Coast traffic from Washington State all the way down to California to Arizona, I'm covered. I have to make sure I have a data server space in the Midwest or the Mountain Time, on the East Coast, in New York, everywhere, so that and those are spun up ready and to absorb the traffic that will come when I do go live, right? Or if it's a physical product, I want to make sure all my warehouses are fully staffed, secured, and have all the trucks and the logistics and the people ready to move the truckers, the package handlers, all that stuff is in tow, right? And if they don't exist, then you have to create those, find ways to create new channels of moving your products, move them, being able to move them efficiently so that your users can have access to whatever you're selling. Okay. And then you look at market trends. So market trends, obviously, we talked about using sites like Alexa.com. Before there was a site called compete.com. I could put in one competitor and the other, and I can put about up to 4. And it will tell me everything about them, their traffic, their website, how many people visited, and all that data. It's still like it doesn't exist anymore, but there are other similar products that you can use. You can if you're building mobile apps, there's an app called there's a service called App Annie, which just means app analytics, but App Annie for short. And I think somebody acquired them recently. But what they do is they have all the inside data on how products like mobile phones apps are faring. So by that I mean they know firsthand which of the apps are getting the most downloads and why, and where they're getting their downloads from. So you can understand the trend. I think there was recently well, not recently, but when Apple launched, an app came in called it was a fart app that you can use, and it made fart sound, and it became a big seller. The person that created it made millions, and all of a sudden people started creating their own fart apps to the point where Steve Jobs was like, "No more fart apps. I don't want any more on the App Store," right? Um, but that's you know, looking at the trends, understanding what's new, what is catchy, where are people going, right? Looking at changes in the market. What are the new opportunities out there? What are some of the things that are a threat to our existence? What are the relevant trends? And you know, is there changes in the price? Is there a demand for new variety of stuff? Um, Level of support and service for those products. So some of them will be looking at um, ratings and reviews. So you can go to your competitor and look at what is their average ratings for this period. What is the reviews? Are the reviews stellar? If the reviews are bad, then why are they bad? How can I find a way to come up with a solution that will actually complement or cause me to, because when you're bad, your customers are not happy, and you can have an alternative. They would be more inclined to try out your product, and hopefully it does the trick, and you're able to convince them to or switch to you. So that's why you find that cell phone companies will do ads like can you hear me now? Like Verizon did that ad, showing that, yeah, and he will appear in different parts of the country, in the cornfield, and on a train, in the city, everywhere. Can you hear me now? Like, yeah, loud and clear. So it's basically trying to drive into the consumer's mind that Verizon is, you can use it everywhere in the country, in the prairies, in the boonies, in the Rockies, in the city, everywhere. We are there. You can hear us, right? And then now, most cell phone companies are willing to pay your termination fee to get you out of a contract. They're willing to pay you $1,000, so you switch to them. You ask yourself, why would you want to pay $1,000 for me to switch? It's because they're looking at the LTV, which is a lifetime value. That $500 or $1,000 they pay for you to switch. They know how much you have to pay to switch. They have to spend that anyway in the Super Bowl ad in the millions to get you to even consider. But if they can pay that to get you out of your misery, and you are now happy, like I did the same thing with T-Mobile from Sprint. I was so pissed with Sprint because when I made phone calls, I couldn't, do my text. I couldn't use the browser. I couldn't make a phone call and then also be on the internet at the same time, or Google Maps. If I'm using I get a call while I was using Google Maps, the maps will start working until I end up the call before the data will continue, because they use different systems or different technologies. Sprint was using what we call CDMA, which is the code division multiple access, and Verizon and other companies like T-Mobile were using the GSM, right? So the GSM allows both uplink and downlink at the same time. So I can do both voice and I can also do my data access at the same time. So I could be talking on the phone and watching YouTube, or I could be on the phone and using Google Maps. I can be on the phone and use any other data-driven app, unlike Sprint. So when T-Mobile offered to pay me to get to them, I was like, sure, let's do it. They sent me about, I think, $750 to switch. And I've been a customer since 2016 or 2017, right? So for 5 years, they've made more out of that $750 that they spend that one time, because I was in a misery and I needed to get out of it. And they came to my rescue. So these are the things that companies do. They look for, how do we get your competitors, disgruntled customers, and make them ours, right? Cool. Any questions so far before I continue?
I have no questions.
Okay, I'll proceed then. So so these are very necessary, you know, being able to there's a whole lot more to it. I showed some last week. When you get all the tools, and a company that you work at you can ask around, hey, what tools you guys use, or you can just do your own research and figure out what tools you can use to determine the market size, the pricing, the strategy, the distribution, all these things ahead of time, right? Um, so when you get all that down, you become a master at doing market research and getting all the data ready to present to your team, which is your stakeholders, to your people that you work with, your director of product, your engineering manager, the VP of whatever, the marketing directors, product marketing managers. You would conduct all this research and be able to present with all the data to support what you're saying. And they're like, you know what, Simone, we really like you really convinced us because you're able to show that Anthem does things this way and we are doing it the other way. Maybe we should try a way to copy them, or how does Kaiser does it. So you have done all that research. You've done analysis on Kaiser Permanente, you've done research on Blue Cross, Blue Shield, you name it, Aetna, all the medical stuff that you can think of. If you're in the pharmaceuticals, there's CVS, there's Rite Aid, there's Walgreens, Duane Reade. They all do the same thing but different name, right? So the data is out there. You do present your analysis to your team, make sure everybody's on the same page, and then you just iterate from there, right? So you just iterate from there and you just get your team on board. So, you have to be able to have access to essential unique resources. Make sure that economies of scale, that is whatever you're proposing, can really not just bring in a few hundreds or thousands, but can really be worth the company investing like millions. Like I was telling Simone earlier, companies like AT&T, like my team was a team of 4, about 4, and everybody's earning about minimum 120, 140, 150K, or if not more. And when you add it all together, I was just doing upper funnel. So with me and the team that I led were 2 Indian guys and then 2 strategy folks in Georgia and 1 in Washington State. So they're spending about $500,000 to $6 million, so $500,000 on just that team. But then there's a product display page, there's a product listing page, there's the business page, there's search team, there's and all those have their own teams. So for that AT&T.com site alone, they're spending, it looks very simple and everything seems to work, but there's so many people behind it in a place in Plano, in Texas or Dallas, downtown, or in Buffalo, Washington, or in Atlanta, or in LA, you name it. And they're all working together to like make sure inventory is filled, everything is working. And so, given everything with testing, the QA, everything, they probably will spend about, let's say 10, 20 million on that site. But annually, they're bringing in close to 700 to 800 million. So that is like nothing to them. But the goal here is for you to, as a product manager, to be able to do the research to show that whatever you're adding, even the littlest thing like AT&T, my goal was to work on the user upper funnel. So when people come to the site, is the main landing page, AT&T.com. Everybody goes there. Then you figure out, okay, I want to use the menu to go to wireless, or I want to get this, I want to get that, right? I want to add a new line. So I have to come up with, we have to create a what we call a global menu that will guide people. So when they land on AT&T.com, they will be able to essentially see everything that we're doing and then be able to make a decision as to where do I go next? What do I buy? Why should I buy this versus that, right? And that was like my goal. So to do that, I had to do some market analysis. You have to look at, okay, who are the top e-commerce sites? We have, first of all, in our industry, besides AT&T, there's Verizon, there's T-Mobile, There's Simple Mobile. Who else? There's Sprint, but T-Mobile has acquired them now. So you have to look at how they are doing their product display, how they list out things, how they do it. And then you have to look at, okay, Amazon, the e-commerce menu, how do you do that? Apple does it this way. And you do the analysis, you do testing. So that's why it's a very, very critical tool, right? That is, I cannot stress that enough. You need to be adept at being able to do market analysis with the right tools at your disposal. You know, define your problem, develop a research plan, collect information on it. So that means when you define a problem, you want to determine and clarify your company's main information needed for you to capture. And then you develop a research plan, right? You create a problem solving framework and an analytical model. And then next step is to collect information. Have like an Excel sheet or anything that you can use to collect the data and be able to now, all the relevant data and information. And then fourth step, you want to analyze information. So data preparation, if you have the data scientists on your team or analyst, how you can work closely with them to get the percentages, all that core things that are needed: data preparation, tabulation, analysis of the results. Then finally, you present your findings to your team and your stakeholders. So there's presentation and report generation. You create all that for your team, and if everything passes, then it's time to jump in and be able to execute. So those are the key things that you have to look at when it comes to market analysis and research. I'll pause here for a second if you have any questions or concerns.
Yes, all good points. One thing I can say about the healthcare industry recently, and we could talk about it next time, is how do you work when you're working with a non-tangible product like health insurance is basically peace of mind. But recently, with all the capabilities, telehealth, telemedicine, now it's turned into an actual product with using all those capabilities online, text messaging. Typically in healthcare, they're trying to do a call to action. So they're driving the messages out through the different capabilities to get people to do something. And same thing to drive membership up, to increase numbers, but they're also trying to do what they call a call to action. And I guess it would be the same thing for an iPhone. It's very similar. It's all the same. And they use competitive analysis now more than ever. They didn't do it before, Nathan. They just kind of did what they wanted to do until Amazon started jumping on their heels, like, we're going to take your customers. You have people picking up prescriptions at CVS still, and you have all the data and analysis. Every prescription, who's taking it monthly. Oh my God. So then they start rushing CVS in particular. And now we get text to death to pick up your prescription. We'll deliver it, but they weren't doing that before, because all the years I've been in it, they weren't even emphasizing competitive analysis or competitive intelligence. Now they're spending money on it, and they didn't bring in they're just starting to bring in the talent.
Exactly.
Because they realized that that's what the other ones are doing, and they were lazy and taking all the profits and not doing as much as they could with all of this data. The only good thing for them is that healthcare is very regulated, because you can't give out people's personal health information, what they're taking, how many times they went to the doctor. But they're just now in the last, I would say now 8 years or so, starting to automate that, where you can see your claims, pick your providers, talk to your doctors. They could have been doing this years ago.
That's true. But the thing is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm sure this came up, but they laughed those people out of the boardrooms. Ha 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 ha.
I'm sure they did, because they wasn't going to fall over that easy.
Exactly, because they didn't see the value. Right? That's why there's a saying that in the absence of value, people will argue for what? Have you heard that happened before?
People would do what?
So in the absence of value,
Mhm.
people will argue.
Yes, yes,
You know,
yes.
they'll argue for price. They'll argue for innovation. So they'll argue against it,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So if people don't see the value in what you're proposing,
Yes.
then they don't see the need. Back then, they're like, shoot, healthcare has been like as old as ever.
Yeah.
Nobody complained. Everything was working.
Mhm.
Shoot, if you can't get your drugs, then die. Right? That's probably their approach. They didn't care. But then
Mhm.
they quickly realized that Amazon jumped in. You know, we have something. There's one called Good RX. There's
Mhm.
Pillbox.
I know
You
about
know,
them. Mhm. The
mhm,
discount. They jumped
exactly.
in, COVID happened, because for years they've been trying to get people to do telemedicine and do
Hmm.
doctor's appointments online. But
And they
people,
wouldn't let
some
budge.
people, right, but at COVID now my own senior mother doesn't physically want to go into the office after she's seen she could see her doctor online. She's like, what for? Why
Hmm.
should I risk my health? And now millions of people are doing it. So MD Live, some telemedicine or some teledoc, all of those have blown up
Hmm.
overnight.
Yep.
But I think COVID helped it because
Hmm.
they needed another solution, and because they didn't see the value in it before, they didn't
Hmm.
have as much money. Now it's all, we want innovative product managers.
Hmm.
We want that now. So now
Yep.
it's a different story.
That these are very, very good. Thanks for sharing that, because it basically validates why you would
All those areas are so important that you just discussed.
it is super important. I can't even emphasize that enough, right? It's so important in the sense that um, not just for the companies, but also for users, right? In the sense
Yeah.
that it adds. It's not just about innovating for innovation's sake. You're adding value,
Yes,
right?
you're adding value to millions of people's lives. So if there's
Exactly.
anybody on the call interested in healthcare, make sure you stay on the technology side of it.
Hmm.
Don't
Yeah,
even think about going anyplace else,
you
because
know,
now they're open to tech backgrounds.
hmm and that I always say I was originally pre-med, and I just saw how medicine was practiced, and I was like, didn't want to be a physician in this kind of environment, because
Mhm.
it was more like, um, you know, it was not personal, you know. But with technology, we can have a personalized medicine where we can now really get the metrics on what is really moving the needle for our users, right?
Mhm.
You know, we can really get the metric on what's really moving the needle, and how we can actually help them. You can get the data at the right. So right now, doctors are able to get critical data at the point of care.
Mhm.
You
POC.
know,
And
and
that's saving a lot of lives and money
mhm,
and
a lot of
being able to, yeah.
mhm, yeah. And now I realize that there's what we call para health. So para health, now doctors have, when I go to the doctor, like today I went to the
Mhm.
eye doctor.
Mhm.
In as much as I went in, the doctor didn't come and see me right away. Somebody
Mhm.
took my vitals. Somebody did all the stuff, the preliminaries, and
Mhm.
that came in and took over after that. Those had been done, right? So what is happening is, doctors, it will help to um, alleviate the burden on doctors. And technology always disrupts and makes things better.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, so they
It's
can spend more time with the patient, because
hmm
their whole thing is, I want to spend more time with the person, not be caught up in red tape. And you take all the vitals and then let me see them and we can
hmm
talk about it. It does save more time,
hmm
and they can see
yeah,
more people quickly.
yeah. So yeah, if I ever decide to go back, it will be because I'm now, like, have an opportunity to make a real difference than just what I call a JAD, just another doctor.
Correct.
Yeah. And I would want to now, with everything I've learned, go in and now be able to innovate and make a difference in people's lives in the field of
Mhm.
medicine than just you know, going in and just bucking, you know, doing the same thing everybody has done for years.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Simone.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions else from Falona or Shante?
I don't have any questions.
Yeah. I think we really got a lot of insights out of today's lecture. And I really appreciate the insights that you brought in today, Simone. Falone, do you have any questions?
No, I understood all of it. It was good.
Okay, cool. So we have a lot of you know, a lot to cover. Next class, we're gonna now that we've understood the market. I'm definitely gonna send some assignments to reinforce what we've learned, and then we're gonna segue into customer development because now it's a two-sided market. As a product manager, you're not just doing the market. You also have to understand the customer that you're serving. What are their needs? What are their pain points? How do you understand them as well? So you have to understand your competition, and then understand your customer, and then bring the two together to now determine what's the way forward for this product. So that's what we're going to be tackling next class. Thank you so much for being on this today's lectures. And if you have any questions, you know, direct them on Slack or email, phone call, anytime. And Shante, we'll have a meeting this weekend with the
Okay.
team. You feel free. I'm going to add your email to it. And Falone, if you're available, it's at 11 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah, I'm free on Saturday.
Okay, yeah, I can. So you can observe how the team, you know, this is how it's going to be when you join a company. There's going to be meetings. We have stand-ups. You have retrospectives. You have all the stuff that we talked about. We can reinforce that in. You just be there. I'll introduce you to the team. You just observe how the proceedings go. People give status updates on the work that they have done. People give up, you know, tell you about any roadblocks that they are facing with the current product, and then you, as a team, find ways to solve them. And you, as a product manager, put on your understand. Okay, on this product, we expected to get this amount of storage done, but we couldn't because of some other issue that came up, or something wasn't very clear. So you have to bring it back from into the backlog and groom that story and get all the assets and get it ready for things to be done, and then push it back in, make sure things are tested. So all the stuff that you would do as a product manager, you would now get to see it in real time. So it's not just talking, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
yeah. Okay. So I'll definitely add your emails to it. Simone, if you're available, I would encourage you to join. I know it's a bit early for you for your time.
Yeah, I should be able to join if you send me the link, or is this the same link?
It's a different link, but I'll send it to you as well.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we also have, like, you know, assignments. So I'm gonna get that to you as well. And I usually give you a week to get it done. And then we can proceed.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I think this was a great lecture. Very lively and more engaging. All right. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Have a good night.
night.